Maid steals billionaire's money to save his dying son. What happens next will shock you. She stood there, trembling, as the police handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Maria Gonzalez, a simple housekeeper, had just stolen $5 million from the most powerful man in the city. But what the officers didn't know was that her employer's own son was fighting for his life, and she was his only hope. What would drive an honest woman to risk everything? And how could she have known that her desperate act would uncover a secret that would bring an empire crashing down? Maria had always been invisible in Maxwell Reed's mansion. For 3 years, she dusted his awards, polished his marble floors, and occasionally glimpsed his 8-year-old son Ethan, a sweet boy with sad eyes who was withering away from a rare blood disease. The billionaire was too busy building his tech empire to notice either of them, until the day he discovered the money missing. "You cleaned my house for years, and this is how you repay my trust?" Maxwell's voice cut through the air like ice as security pinned Maria against the wall. "I treated you well. You call ignoring your dying son, treating people well?" Maria shot back, tears streaming down her face. "The treatment exists, but you won't pay for it because it's experimental. He has weeks left." Maxwell's face drained of color. "What are you talking about?" "Ethan has a mild anemia. My assistant handles his medical care." That's when Maria realized, he didn't know. The assistant, Victoria Reeves, had been hiding Ethan's deteriorating condition while embezzling the money meant for his care. But why would she do this to an innocent child? As Maria was dragged away, she locked eyes with Maxwell. "Check your son's medical records. Then check Victoria's offshore accounts. The truth would prove more devastating than either could imagine. Victoria wasn't just stealing money, she was deliberately keeping Ethan sick. As Maxwell's ex-fiancée, her revenge plan was simple: make him lose what he loved most, just as she had when he abandoned her years ago. When Maxwell discovered Maria had actually transferred the stolen millions directly to the specialized children's hospital for Ethan's treatment, not to herself, everything changed. The security footage showed her sobbing as she made the transfer, whispering, "Please live, little one. Why would you risk everything for my son?" Maxwell asked through the jail cell bars, his voice breaking. "You could spend years in prison." Maria looked up, her eyes clear and determined. "Because every child deserves someone who will fight for them. Even if that someone is just the maid." As Ethan began the treatment that would save his life, Maxwell used his influence to free Maria. What began as gratitude evolved into deep respect, and eventually, something neither expected: love. The billionaire who had everything discovered his greatest wealth in the woman who had nothing but courage. 1 year later, as Ethan ran laughing through the garden of their home, his strength fully restored, Maxwell took Maria's hand. "You stole my money," he said with a smile, "but you gave me back my heart." The night Maria was arrested remained seared in her memory. The cold metal of the handcuffs, the humiliation of being marched through the mansion's grand foyer where she had quietly worked for years. But most haunting was Ethan's face pressed against his bedroom window, tears streaming down his pale cheeks as he watched the only person who truly saw him being taken away. In the holding cell, Maria huddled on a hard bench, her uniform still smelling of the lemon polish she'd used that morning. The other detainees, shoplifters, drunk drivers, women with hard eyes, kept their distance from the sobbing maid. "Gonzalez." "Visitor," the officer called, surprising her. It had only been 6 hours. She expected her cousin Rosa, maybe a public defender. Instead, Maxwell Reed himself stood in the visitation room, his tailored suit incongruous against the institutional gray walls. His eyes were bloodshot, his normally perfect hair disheveled. "You were right," he said without preamble, his voice hoarse. "About everything." Maxwell had gone straight to the hospital after Maria's arrest, demanding to see his son's complete medical records. What he found shattered his world. Ethan wasn't mildly anemic, he was dying from a rare blood disorder that had been deliberately mistreated for months. The recommended experimental treatment had been repeatedly denied by Victoria, who forged Maxwell's signature on medical documents while telling doctors Maxwell refused to try unproven methods. "I trusted her with everything, my company, my home, my son," Maxwell whispered, his hands shaking. "She's been with me for 10 years. Since before your engagement ended," Maria said softly. Maxwell looked up sharply. "How did you know about that?" "She kept a photo of you two in her desk. Sometimes when you were traveling, she'd stay late in your study, drinking your whiskey and talking about how you'd ruined her life." The investigation moved with the speed only billions of dollars can command. Victoria's offshore accounts revealed not just the money meant for Ethan's care, but funds siphoned from Reed Enterprises for years. More disturbing were the text messages to Ethan's doctors, instructing them to administer medications that would manage his symptoms without addressing the underlying disease, keeping him sick but not killing him outright. "I want him to watch his precious boy fade away," she'd written to an accomplice. "Like I had to watch my dreams die when he left me for his work." The charges against Maria were dropped immediately. By morning, she was free, and Victoria was in custody facing attempted murder charges. But freedom brought its own problems. Maria had nowhere to go. She'd lived in the Reed Mansion staff quarters for years, sending most of her salary back to her family in Mexico. "You'll stay with us," Maxwell said simply when he picked her up from the police station. "Ethan needs you." The boy's condition was critical. The experimental treatment Maria had arranged required weeks of intensive care. Maxwell never left the hospital, sleeping in a chair beside his son's bed, his laptop abandoned. Maria brought him clean clothes, home-cooked meals, and most importantly, hope. "Tell me again how you knew," Maxwell asked one night as they watched Ethan sleep, his vital signs finally stabilizing. "About his real condition." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I lost my little brother to the same disease back home. The symptoms are unmistakable. When I saw Ethan's bruises, the nosebleeds he tried to hide, I knew. I asked Victoria about specialists, treatments. She said you refused to waste money on quack remedies. So you started researching yourself." Maria nodded. "I found Dr. Patel's clinical trial. When Victoria caught me looking at the hospital website on a mansion computer, she threatened to have me deported. That's when I knew something was very wrong." As Ethan slowly recovered, the dynamics between Maria and Maxwell shifted. No longer employer and employee, they became partners in Ethan's care. Maxwell saw how his son's face lit up when Maria entered the room, how she knew exactly what stories would make him laugh on bad days. He noticed her quiet intelligence, her unwavering integrity. For Maria, seeing the transformation in Maxwell was equally powerful. The distant, workaholic billionaire became a devoted father who sang off-key lullabies and learned to make dinosaur-shaped pancakes because they were Ethan's favorite. 6 months after the arrest, Ethan was strong enough to return home. The mansion had changed. Maxwell had converted his rarely used home office into a colorful playroom. Photos of Ethan replaced business awards on the walls. "I don't want to be your maid anymore," Maria told Maxwell one evening as they sat on the terrace watching Ethan play with his new puppy. Maxwell's heart sank. "I understand. After everything that happened." "No," she interrupted, uncharacteristically bold. "I want to go back to school. I was studying nursing before my father got sick and I had to work. Seeing Ethan's treatment, I realized how much I still want that." The relief on Maxwell's face was palpable. "I'll pay for everything. It's the least I can do." "I don't want your charity," she said firmly. "But I would accept a loan. And maybe I could still live here. For Ethan's sake." They both knew it wasn't just for Ethan. Their first kiss happened on a rainy Tuesday, nothing dramatic, just a quiet moment in the kitchen when words no longer seemed adequate. Their love grew slowly, built on mutual respect and the unshakable foundation of what they'd endured together. 1 year later, as Ethan ran laughing through the garden of their home, his strength fully restored, Maxwell took Maria's hand. "You stole my money," he said with a smile, "but you gave me back my heart." "And you," she replied, squeezing his hand, "gave me a family." If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe to see more stories about courage, sacrifice, and unexpected love. From which country are you watching? Let us know in the comments below.